Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined by Armenian sports reporter Jason Takhtadjian. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Nathan. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm trying to stay awake with all this crazy schedules that they got me working right now at the station.
I bet that's tough with how early your mornings are.
Oh yeah. I mean, talk about it. I mean, waking up two in the morning, 2:30 in the morning to fill in for the morning show. I mean, it's not all the time that I get to do that, but it's difficult when you're not used to waking up at a certain time. But the time that you're waking up at sometimes is when you're going to sleep.
Yeah, when your body's not used to that, it's difficult to start just quickly make that change.
Yep, absolutely.
So how old were you when you started doing sports reporting?
Okay, so I did not actually start college doing sports reporting. So I think I made the switch to journalism after my first semester of college. So I don't know, how old was I? I want to say 18 or 19. No, it would have probably have been about 19 is when I started. Um, I went into UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, in the mechanical engineering program. And after one semester, I was like, okay, I need to be, just rethinking what I'm doing with my career because I'm not really enjoying this as much as I thought I would have. Just because, the idea is they would pay more. Um, I just didn't enjoy it. I had to think hard, think, about just what I wanted to do with my career, and I decided to switch into journalism because of my love for sports, my love for broadcast, specifically with soccer. And After that, just was at UNLV and busted my chops, doing literally anything and everything to learn what I could learn in journalism.
That was a good switch for you because now, you got to where you are and you're enjoying it. So that was a good thing that you made that switch.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's still a work in progress, right? I'm only 25 right now, so there's just plenty more time for me to learn more things about the industry, learn more things about journalism, grow, and implement what I learn with certain things.
Yeah, it can just help you keep getting better and better with where you are and where you were at UNLV, everything.
Yeah.
What made you want to make it as a career?
It's just, my passion for sports, really. I mean, growing up, being introduced into the sport of soccer at the age of like 4 or 5 years old, sports has been a huge part of my life. And, I have family ties and connections to that as well, as far as, my grandparents, my grandfathers specifically, getting me into the sport of soccer, teaching me about sports, teaching me, about this sport, that sport, what do these different sports, what the rules are, and watching them, So growing up and again, seeing commentators like maybe Martin Tyler in soccer, the way that he would be able to paint a picture when it came to a match. Um, all of that really resonated with me, and I really loved it. And I loved, the idea of being able to call the game and have an audience listen to you calling this massively important World Cup game, for example. So that's just that was kind of like the starting point as far as like what was the spark. And once I got into UNLV, made the switch after one semester into journalism. Immediately, I started with my own radio show podcast. Started learning about social media. Starting learning about broadcast side of it, like the TV broadcast side of it, and the writing as well. So just trying to implement them all together, and just the love for content, making
Mhm.
content, seeing it come to life once you put it all together, and doing it in the idea of sports always interests me.
Yeah, so I kind of started with being around sports from a young age, introduced soccer specifically, like you said, World Cups, and you realize like you can make a career out of that too.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I until I did it, I knew that I could make it a career.
Yeah, definitely. What's the biggest sports report you got to do?
That's a good question because, as you know, I'm in Iowa right now as a news reporter, so I haven't had too many opportunities to do sporting events here per se. But that doesn't mean I haven't. Back at UNLV, I did a lot, and one of the biggest highlights, or one thing I always remember, is the fact that I was credentialed more than 30 times to go cover the Golden Knights.
Wow,
And
that's
that
really
was
cool.
that was something because one of the years I remember I went to go cover the Stanley Cup playoffs, and the Golden Knights were going up against the San Jose Sharks. And I'll never forget Game One. I mean, the Golden Knights. It didn't take more than a minute for them to just start scoring goals, and the place was just going crazy. So that was the first experience for me, just seeing, you know, Vegas sports come to life.
That's really cool that you got to do the playoffs, and that was like when they were kind of starting to be a newer team again, right? 'Cause they were just
Yeah,
created.
and I think that was their second ever season, or yeah, I think it was because they played the San Jose Sharks in the first round, but they got upset in 7 games, and they didn't progress after that. But I mean, look at it now; they're the reigning Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool that you got to cover them.
Yep.
Who are some of the cool guys you've gotten to talk to from your job?
Oh man, I've talked to a lot. I mean, more recently, with Armenian Sports News, being able to talk to guys like Rex Kalamian, who is, a player scout in the NBA, such a cool guy, and talk about, 30 consecutive seasons in the NBA and, being an Armenian representation there. But such a cool, down to earth guy. Um, when I think back during my UNLV times, the first ever credentialed event that I covered as a journalist in UNLV was the NBA Summer League, and I think that was the 2017 NBA Summer League. And one of the first interviews I ever did, actually, the first interview I did was with Jason Kidd when he was with the Milwaukee Bucks, just
Wow.
randomly. And at that time, I didn't know I wasn't able to do those quick, off the cuff interviews until I was told after the fact and then learned the hard way. I didn't get my credential revoked or anything. I just got like a big talking to by this one like NBA media lady. Um, but yeah, Jason Kidd was so cool about it. We were just talking about upcoming rookies and players like Sterling Brown and Don Maker or Don McCour, and he was just talking to me about that stuff, and he was just looking forward to the summer league. But I was just of the impression I'm like, hey, I just need to like get an interview. But all of a sudden, you see these guys you watch on TV all your life. You see them in person. It's so surreal. So like while I'm doing the interview, I'm like shaking with like adrenaline and anxiety at the same time.
That's crazy that for your first one that you got to right off the bat start with Jason Kidd.
Yeah, that summer league, I met a lot of people.
That's really cool. And
Yeah.
obviously getting the Armenian national basketball coach and his coach guys like he had like Russell Westbrook, right? And it was on the Raptors championship team.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. He was on the Thunder team that made it to the finals. It's a big deal. It's Rex Kalamian, and you know, doesn't seem like he's slowing down anytime soon.
Not at all. How have you been able to stay connected with the Armenian community with your job?
So I mean, two things, right? Because it's a news position here in Iowa, I've been, you know, given the opportunity to also do weekend producing and anchoring, and part of that is sometimes doing national and international stories. So I thought it would be beneficial for me to just try to cover what's going on in Armenia, especially with what had been going on over the past year with the blockade and what had been going on recently with Azerbaijan just basically ethnically cleansing Nagorno-Karabakh, Artsakh. But social media is king, right? If it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't have been connected with the Armenian community, and it would have only been, a story or a report that would have existed just here in this, Iowa, Sioux City area, for sure. So social media, big deal. To connect somebody who's like about 2,000 miles away from the next biggest Armenian community, like Los Angeles. And also doing Armenian sports news right now is a good way to connect as well, because now you're covering just all these different Armenian athletes that just otherwise just don't have that sort of specific limelight.
Yeah, so you've been able to take good use of the extra time that they let you have so you can highlight so that people know, because a lot of people didn't know about what was happening in Armenia and with Azerbaijan. And then just
Yeah.
being able to highlight for all those athletes so that, every Armenian athlete gets their story. Because there's a lot of like ones going high places, but people just like don't know about them at the moment.
No, I mean there doesn't really seem to be a specifically dedicated outlet to all Armenian sports. There are like to specific Armenian sports that they target, but not as a whole and not as consistent now, because again, it's a very niche thing, but it's something that it makes you feel good as an Armenian. That you take pride in seeing other Armenians in different. It doesn't have to be sports. It could just be any other field. Just seeing Armenians succeed. It's a feeling of pride that I'm sure you and I both. It's
Hmm.
something that we both feel.
Yeah, definitely. Just, seeing because it's a small community, like, compared to a lot of us, but see how hard like Armenians are working. It's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
What is your daily and weekly schedule like?
Oh, that doesn't have a simple answer because, like I told you, I do reporting, I do producing, and I do weekend anchoring. I just started as a reporter when I first took this job, but after time, you know, was given the position to do weekend anchoring and producing. So, for example, on a normal week, it starts on Friday, and it would be 1:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. reporting, and then Saturday and Sunday the same time schedule or same time frame, but that would be for weekend report anchoring and producing. And then the next Monday, Tuesday would be 9:30 in the morning to 6:30. So that'd be called a dayside shift. So uh, pretty much it's from Friday to Tuesday, what my schedule is right now as a weekend anchor. And when I'm not weekend anchoring, I'm reporting. And depending on the season, I'm doing sports coverage. I'm helping out the guys at our station. It's a two-man sports team, and we do have football and basketball coverage, special coverage shows, and they need all hands on deck. So I was like, hey, this is my opportunity to try to get some sports experience while I'm at my actual job.
Hmm. So they're always busy, always working, always got a full schedule.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, currently, right now, I had to fill in the morning show for the past 3 days, which means I wake up 2 in the morning, get into work at 3 in the morning, and then I'm basically on from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. doing the morning show solo. You typically you see these morning anchors, they have another anchor with them or two, and then they have these fun segments and stuff. We don't have that much of a luxury, especially with a small market like this, and especially when I'm trying to fill in for somebody who had already taken off. It's a challenge, but it's okay. Like for example, like I got through these 3 days. Now I got the weekend, so that means tomorrow I don't have to get into work until late, so I get to lie in a little bit more.
Yeah, it just keeps adding to like all the experience too and learning that you get. Yeah, it gives you the skills to do multiple different things, and you've
Yeah,
done them all.
yeah, absolutely, man.
How did you end up in Iowa?
Man, I mean, when I was in college, sports was the number one, um, focus for me. But I graduated in May of 2020, and that's pretty much when the COVID-19 pandemic really kicked off in the country and in the world, really. Um, so I had to make a decision because I was still freelancing, I was still getting sports experience, but there was just so much uncertainty after graduation. I'm working with the Southern Nevada Golf Association, or I'm writing for Vegas Sports Daily, and there's just instability with that. I need to get my professional experience. I need to get my foot in the door. No one's hiring sports guys though, especially out of college. They're only hiring within companies. So it made me decide, you know what? I'm just gonna apply for general news as well as sports and just see what bites. Sioux City, I get a phone call back from Sioux City saying that they were interested in me. But before that phone call, I remember the day that I submitted my application for KCAU in Sioux City. um, an hour after I submitted the application, I got a phone call from this girl. Her name is Lydia Vasquez, and I went to UNLV with her. She just so happened to be at the station too. I just wasn't putting two and two together at the time when I was applying. I get a phone call from her, really excited. She's like, "Oh my God, did you submit an application for the station?" I'm like, "Yeah, how do you know that?" She's like, "I saw the papers that were printed out of applications, and I saw your last name and recognized it. So I wanted to make sure I call you and say, if you're very serious about this, I'll put a good word in for you, and you'll probably get the job." So that's kind of what happened.
That's good that she was there and saw your name on there, and you know that it was a good place to start, especially with the uncertainty at the time, like you said with COVID. You know, you got a
Yeah,
good place to go to.
right. I mean, you see Vegas just blowing up with sports right now, but at that time, there just wasn't any certainty about sports in general or Vegas in general when it comes to sports or what's going to happen with the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that just seemed like the right opportunity just for me to get away and grow as well. And it's been very valuable both professionally and for life.
It helps you with both aspects with that.
Yep.
What are your goals for the rest of your career?
Oh man, I want to get back into sports in a professional sense. I mean, if I had my choosing, I would love to do something in the capacity of soccer, world football, doing World Cup games, doing Premier League games or MLS games or something that I can broadcast, possibly play by play or sideline reporting, um, just to be able to do storytelling as well. Because when you do that, staying in the booth or broadcasting or anchoring, you're not out in the field as much. You're not meeting as many people. So there's like pros and cons to it. But ultimately, right now, my focus is just to get back into the sports world and then take it from there.
So first to just get back into the sports world, and then got to do that reporting, and then keep going from there, and hopefully get to soccer. And like the next World Cup is coming here, so
Exactly. And I mean, soccer's not the end all be all. It's a preference, right?
Mhm.
And that's the thing that, I've been taught as well growing up because um, obviously starting at UNLV, I was very vocal about, oh, soccer, number one, this and that. But especially in this country, you got to be well versed with all different type of sports. You can't be a one trick pony.
Yeah, you have to have different talents, and like you said,
Absolutely.
in America, people like a lot of different sports. We have a lot of different professional leagues, a lot of different. So you got to be prepared for a lot of sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
How would you describe yourself as a person?
In the sense of like a journalist or just like in general.
Yeah, just in general, like off the job.
Off the job, I mean, dude, sports is a big part of my life. If I'm not working, there's a good chance I'm checking notifications about sports, and what's going on in the world of sports. Outside of that, I do love video games, movies. Traveling is a big deal for me, and I think that also is part of, my love for sports and soccer is also learning about different parts of the world. And my grandpa was also big when it came to geography at a young age for me. So I love exploring and travel and stuff like that, and history as well. I'm outgoing, but I also like to stay home. I like to find a balance when it comes to stuff like that. And it's difficult because in Sioux City, it's a very small town. It's not what I'm used to. There aren't that many Armenians. Actually, there aren't any Armenians really here. And in Vegas, that's something that was a key part of my upbringing is being part of the Armenian community and doing different events with them and trying to maintain that because I can always learn something, something new. My Armenian is not perfect, but I want to work towards it, and being surrounded by Armenian community is big. So that's part of it. Again, being out, being part of the community, traveling, all that type of stuff. It's just small parts of just me, and I like a joke or two for sure. I'm sure we all do.
We all do, yeah. Yeah, so just the fun stuff like sports, video games, movies, and then keeping up with the Armenian culture, wanting to be able to practice like speaking it because you go to those areas like Glendale and like you just hear it speaking on the streets and it's pretty cool. So, just being able to keep up with the Armenian culture.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And the last question I was for fun. If you got to interview any three athletes, who would it be?
Any three athletes alive or
It could
from the
be
past or
dead,
anything?
past, present, anyone.
First one's got to be Kobe Bryant. I mean, dude, he is the reason why I got into the sport of basketball. That's one of my favorite sports. Obviously, soccer's number one, but if I had to pick a second, it would probably be basketball. And he was the reason why I got into it. Reason why I grew up as a Laker fan. Also my grandpa from my mom's side is the reason why I also became a Laker fan, because he remembers watching Magic Johnson, because that's whenever they came to the United States, lived in LA, watched the Showtime Lakers, and then watching Kobe and Shaq. So definitely Kobe would be somebody that I would have loved to interview. Another person I would have loved to interview was Pele, honestly. Talk about one of the greatest athletes of all time, that his legacy, honestly, off the field is larger than on the field. You're talking about somebody who you can make an argument was the reason why soccer flourished and bloomed in the United States the way that it did with his 1975 meeting with Gerald Ford. So, Pele is somebody who I looked up to so much and learned so much about, like, as if he was not real, like a legend,
Mhm.
right? And then outside of that, um, I'll pick an Armenian athlete, and who else? Talking about soccer and Armenian athletes, and Henrik Mkhitaryan. One of the best athletes that's come out of Armenia, one of the best Armenian footballers, if not the greatest Armenian footballer so far. And he's the reason why I was just watching random Borussia Dortmund games or Manchester United games. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have, learned more about German soccer or the Bundesliga, or even, you could take it a step back, even whenever he was playing in the Ukrainian Premier League with Shakhtar Donetsk. The guy was just fantastic. It was just simply fantastic. One of the seasons in the Bundesliga, I think he had 40 total goals and assists, not in the Bundesliga, but the entire season that year.
That's crazy.
Um, and he went to United, he went to Arsenal, stagnated, and then he went to Italy and just rejuvenated his career, aging like fine wine, no pun intended. This guy was just so good, and he continues to be good considering he's at the tail end of his career, and Inter Milan want to re-sign him. So I know for a fact, just considering that sort of footballer and that sort of career, he's got a few stories or two that he maybe hasn't told yet that I would love to learn about and also get to know the guy.
Yeah, be a great dinner for sure. I was, like you said, Armenian legend still playing. Just played. They had the Champions League championship against City, and
Yeah.
that was. But
Yeah, you don't want to talk too much about that, especially when you start thinking about the missed chances from guys like Romelu Lukaku. They could
I
have
know.
actually, pushed it to extra time, and then who knows what happens after that.
Yeah, and now Lukaku's gone though, so
Well, now he's at AS Roma, so he's not too far away, not
yeah.
too far removed from Inter Milan.
But yeah, all three of those guys, all legends in their sports, legends from their country. And so it'd be
Yeah,
a lot of great stories to be heard and be able to share.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It would be nice, right? Two of
Yeah.
those guys I told you about for interview wise. Obviously, can't actually practically do that, but Henrik Mkhitaryan, you never know. I would love to get in touch with that guy. We'll see.
You never know. It could happen.
We'll see.
All right. Thank you for taking the time to join me today.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for having me, man. Have a good day.
You too.